They laughed when security walked me out of the executive meeting. The CEO's son even clapped. To them, I was just another employee who had failed. But what they didn't know was simple. Before leaving the building, I had already sent one email. 30 minutes later, the auditors arrived. And suddenly, no one was laughing anymore. I had worked at Whitmore Financial Group for 7 years. 7 long years. Late nights. Endless reports. Constant pressure. But I never complained. Because I believed in the company. And more importantly, I believed in the rules. I was the senior financial compliance manager. My job was simple. Watch the numbers, check the transactions, and make sure nothing illegal happened inside the company. Most executives didn't like my department. Compliance slows things down. It asks too many questions. A reason. Unfortunately, one person hated rules more than anyone else. Daniel Whitmore, the CEO's son. Daniel had joined the company only a year ago, but in just 12 months, he had climbed straight to executive vice president. Not because of talent, not because of experience, but because of his last name. Everyone knew it, but no one said it. Daniel loved power, he loved attention, and most of all, he loved shortcuts. At first, the problems were small. Unapproved spending, strange consulting payments, contracts pushed through without proper review. Every time I flagged the issue, every time I asked questions, every time I requested documentation, and every time, Daniel became more irritated. One afternoon, he walked into my office without knocking. He didn't sit. He didn't greet me. He simply threw a folder on my desk. Approve this. I opened the folder. A transfer request. $20 million. Consulting fee. To a company I had never heard of. I checked the file. No documentation. No contract. No explanation. I can't approve this, I said calmly. Daniel crossed his arms. Why not? There's no justification. His voice became cold. You're slowing down a strategic investment. I'm following compliance rules. He leaned forward. You work for this company. Yes, and I run this company. I looked at him quietly. Not officially. That was the moment everything changed. From that day on, Daniel treated me like an enemy. Emails ignored, meetings canceled, requests delayed. And then one morning, I received a message. Mandatory executive meeting, 10 o'clock a.m. No agenda, no explanation. Attendance required. That was the first red flag. The second red flag came when I entered the meeting room. Everyone was there. The CEO, board members, finance executives, legal department, and Daniel standing confidently at the front. Not his father. Him. The room fell silent when I walked in. Daniel smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone about to perform a show. Let's begin, he said. He clicked the presentation screen. A slide appeared. Corporate Restructuring Initiative. I immediately understood. Restructuring is the easiest way to remove someone. Daniel spoke confidently. Our company needs to move faster. Heads nodded around the table. Certain departments are creating unnecessary delays. More nods. Then he looked directly at me. And unfortunately, compliance is one of them. Stomach tightened. Daniel continued speaking. Effective immediately, the financial compliance department will be dissolved. Silence filled the room. My position, my team, my department. Gone. Just like that. Daniel folded his hands. And therefore the position of senior compliance manager is terminated. A few people exchanged awkward glances, but no one spoke. The CEO looked uncomfortable, but he remained silent. Daniel smiled again. Security will escort you out. A few managers quietly laughed, not loudly, but enough, because corporate humiliation is entertainment for some people. I stood up slowly. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. Instead, I asked one simple question. Will this decision be included in the official meeting minutes? Daniel laughed. Of course. I nodded. Moment later, as they walked me toward the door, I noticed something. Daniel looked relaxed, confident, almost arrogant, which meant one thing. He believed he had already won, but he didn't understand something important. I had been watching the numbers for months, and those strange transactions, they weren't random. They were a pattern. That $20 million consulting payment, it was only one piece. There were others. 10 million, 8 million, 5 million, all sent to different companies. But every company had one thing in common. They were new, recently created, and strangely, they all used the same legal representative, which meant something bigger was happening, something illegal, and Daniel was involved. The elevator doors closed. Security stood beside me. Neither of us spoke. Elevator reached the lobby. They nodded politely. Good luck. I walked outside. The sunlight felt strange. 7 years in that building, and suddenly I was unemployed. But instead of going home, I sat in my car, opened my laptop, and sent one email. Just one. To the Federal Corporate Audit Authority. Subject line: Urgent financial irregularities, immediate review required. Attached were months of documentation, transaction logs, approval overrides, suspicious transfers, digital signatures, including one very important detail: the final approval for every transaction. Daniel Whitmore. I pressed send, then I drove away. 30 minutes later, back inside the Whitmore headquarters, Daniel was finishing his presentation. Executives were congratulating him. The CEO looked uncertain, but the room was mostly relaxed. Again. Then the doors opened. 5 people walked in. Dark suits, serious expressions. One woman stepped forward. We are from the Federal Corporate Audit Authority. The room went silent. We are here to conduct an immediate investigation into financial activity within this company. Daniel frowned. This is a private meeting. The auditor ignored him. We have documentation indicating possible financial misconduct. She placed a folder on the table. The CEO opened it. His face changed immediately. He slowly looked up at Daniel. Explain this. Daniel glanced at the documents. His confidence faded slightly. These are normal business transactions. The auditor shook her head. They appear to be transfers to shell corporations. The room began whispering. Daniel spoke louder. This is ridiculous. Calmly. Until the investigation is complete, certain executives must remain available for questioning. She looked directly at Daniel, especially those who approved the transactions. For the first time that day, Daniel looked nervous. Back at home, my phone rang. A former colleague. You won't believe what just happened. I already knew. The audit had started. The next few days were chaos. Auditors occupied the finance department. Emails were reviewed. Accounts were frozen. Executives were questioned. And slowly, the truth began to appear. Those consulting companies, they were shell corporations. And the owner? A private investment fund, controlled secretly by Daniel Whitmore. He had been moving company money into businesses he secretly owned. If his plan succeeded, he would control millions, and eventually, itself. But the evidence was undeniable. 2 weeks later, the board held an emergency meeting. This time, I wasn't in the room, but I heard what happened. Daniel was asked one simple question. Did you authorize these transfers for personal gain? He tried to explain, tried to defend himself, but the documents were clear, and the audit report was final. That afternoon, the board released a statement. Daniel Whitmore had been removed from his executive position, pending legal investigation. His father, the CEO, publicly apologized to shareholders. The company promised full cooperation with authorities. 3 days later, my phone rang again, this time from the CEO himself. His voice sounded tired. "I owe you an apology." I remained silent. "You tried to stop this," he said. "Yes. And I didn't listen." "No." He sighed. "Board would like you to return." I raised an eyebrow. "In what role?" "Chief Compliance Officer. Board-level authority. Full oversight. No interference." I thought about it for a moment. Then I asked one question. "Will compliance remain independent?" "Yes." "Then I'll accept." A month later, I walked back into the same building, the same lobby, the same elevators. But everything felt different. Executives didn't laugh anymore. They didn't whisper. They simply nodded respectfully. Because now they understood something important. Rules aren't obstacles, they're protection. And sometimes, the person enforcing the rules is the most powerful person in the room. They laughed when I was fired, but the moment the audit started, they realized something. Breaking the rules is easy. Escaping the evidence is not.